The shuttle breach alarm screamed through the royal transport before anyone could react. Lieutenant Marcus Chen barely had time to register the jagged metal tearing through the hull before the princess, 7 years old, pale blue skin gleaming under emergency lights, was sucked toward the widening hole. His hand shot out on instinct, catching her wrist as his magnetic boots locked to the deck plating. The vacuum howled around them, ripping at his uniform, pulling the child towards certain death in the void between stars. "Hold on!" His voice was lost in the roar, but his grip didn't waver. The princess's golden eyes went wide with terror, her small fingers clutching his forearm with surprising strength. Through the breach, Marcus could see the debris field, twisted chunks of the mining station they'd just evacuated, still burning with ghostly green fire. Something had attacked it. Something had followed them. The royal guards were trained for this. Marcus dragged himself hand over hand along the safety rail, pulling the princess with him, fighting against the explosive decompression. His lungs burned. 3 more steps. 2. His free hand slammed the emergency seal panel and blast doors shrieked closed, cutting off the breach. The sudden silence felt like a physical blow. The princess collapsed against him, gasping, her small body trembling. Marcus knelt, checking her for injuries with practiced efficiency. "Your Highness, are you hurt?" She shook her head, unable to speak, pressing her face against his shoulder. Marcus stayed still, letting her recover, his own heart hammering. Around them, the other guards were already moving, sealing secondary breaches, tending to the wounded. But he felt eyes on him. Looking up, he saw the Queen's Guard commander, a towering female with silver markings across her temples, watching them with an expression he couldn't read. "The Queen summons you both," she said, her voice carrying effortlessly across the damaged deck. "Immediately." Marcus stood, the princess's hand still gripping his. Protocol dictated he release her now, step back, let the royal attendants handle this. But she wouldn't let go, and something in those terrified golden eyes made him hesitate. The commander's gaze sharpened. "Lieutenant Chen, the Queen is waiting." He nodded once, and together they walked through corridors still hazed with smoke and emergency lighting. The other survivors, civilians from the mining station, mostly, watched them pass with hollow eyes. Whatever had destroyed their home hadn't been random raiders or equipment failure. Marcus had seen weapons fire. Coordinated strikes. Someone had wanted everyone on that station dead. The Queen's chamber was at the ship's heart, protected by 3 layers of security and enough shielding to survive a direct hit. When the doors opened, Marcus felt the temperature drop. Queen Lysara stood before the observation window, her back to them, hands clasped behind her. She was taller than her guards, her presence filling the room like gravity itself. The princess finally released Marcus's hand and ran forward. "Mother, kneel!" The single word stopped the child mid-step. The Queen turned slowly, and Marcus understood why her species had never lost a war in recorded history. Those eyes, the same gold as her daughter's but ancient, Wang, saw everything. "Both of you!" Marcus dropped to one knee, fist to chest, the formal salute. The princess knelt beside him, her small shoulders squared with effort. The Queen approached with measured steps, her ceremonial robes whispering against the deck. She stopped before them, studying Marcus for a long moment. "You touched the crown, princess." It wasn't a question. Marcus kept his eyes down. "Yes, your majesty. You know the law. No one outside the royal bloodline touches the heir. The penalty is death." "Yes, your majesty." His voice remained steady. He'd known the risk the moment his hand closed around that small wrist. He'd do it again. The silence stretched. Marcus could hear the princess breathing beside him, quick and shallow. Then the Queen spoke again, quieter now, but somehow more terrible. "Look at me, Lieutenant." He raised his eyes. The Queen's expression was unreadable, carved from stone and starlight. "My daughter would be dead without you." Floating in the void, her body frozen, her future erased. She paused. "This presents a problem." Marcus said nothing. There was nothing to say. The law was absolute. He'd violated it. The consequence was death, regardless of circumstance. That was how empires survived, through rules that bent for no one. The Queen glanced at her daughter, then back to Marcus. You will remain aboard this ship, under guard, until we reach the homeworld. She turned away, dismissing them. Then, the council will decide. The commander stepped forward, her hand on her weapon. Marcus rose smoothly, keeping his movements calm, non-threatening. But the princess lunged forward, grabbing her mother's robes. No! Mother, please, he saved me! You can't, silence. The Queen's voice cracked like ice breaking. You will learn, daughter, that mercy and law are different things. Go. The princess's face crumpled, tears streaming down her cheeks, but she obeyed. As Marcus was led away, he caught one last glimpse of the Queen standing alone before the window, her reflection ghost-like against the stars. He thought he saw her hands trembling, but perhaps it was just the light. The cell was clean and climate-controlled, more quarters than prison. Marcus sat on the bunk, processing everything. The attack. The breach. The princess's hand in his. The Queen's eyes. He'd been a royal guard for 6 years, assigned to protect humanity's interests in the Alliance fleet. He never expected to die for it, but he made peace with the possibility long ago. At least the child was alive. That had to be enough. Hours passed. Maybe days. The ship's artificial gravity made time feel fluid. Guards brought food, real food, not rations, and water. No one spoke to him. No one looked at him longer than necessary. He was already a ghost. Then the door opened, and the commander entered alone. She stood at attention, hands behind her back, studying him with those sharp silver eyes. The princess hasn't stopped crying, she said finally. She refuses to eat. Refuses to sleep. The Queen has tried everything. A pause. She keeps saying the same thing. That you're going to die because you saved her. That it's wrong. Marcus nodded slowly. She's not wrong. No. She isn't. The commander moved closer, lowering her voice. There are those on the council who will use this. Who will call it an insult to our people. A human touching the air. Her expression hardened. There are those who never wanted this alliance. Who see your kind as weak. Emotional. Unsuitable for military service. And you? Marcus met her gaze. What do you see? The commander was quiet for a long moment, then, her voice softened. I see a soldier who did his duty. Who saved a child's life without hesitation. Who accepted the consequences without complaint or bargaining. She straightened. I see what a royal guard should be. She turned to leave, then stopped at the door. The Queen sees it too, Lieutenant. But seeing and being able to act are different things. Remember that in the days ahead. After she left, Marcus lay back on the bunk, staring at the ceiling. The princess was 7 years old. Too young to understand that sometimes laws existed for reasons beyond simple cruelty. The royal bloodline was considered sacred among her people. Genetic manipulation over millennia had made them immune to diseases that killed others, gave them lifespans measured in centuries. Physical contact could theoretically contaminate that purity, introduce foreign elements. It was superstition wrapped in biology, wrapped in tradition, but it was real to them. And Marcus had violated it. He closed his eyes and saw her falling toward that breach, her small hand reaching. No. He'd made the right choice. Laws could be wrong. He'd rather die knowing he'd saved a child than live knowing he'd let protocol kill her. The ship shuddered. Alarms blared. Marcus was on his feet instantly, warrior reflexes taking over. The lights flickered, went red, then returned. Through the cell door, he heard running footsteps, shouted orders. Another attack? Here? The door burst open. Not the commander this time. 3 guards he didn't recognize, weapons drawn but not aimed at him yet. The lead one spoke rapidly in the royal tongue, then switched to standard. Come with us. Now. What's happening? The princess is missing. Marcus's blood turned to ice. Missing? How? Unknown. The queen demands your presence. The guard's eyes were hard. If you've had anything to do with this, I've been locked in here since we spoke. Marcus stepped forward, mind racing. When did she disappear? 15 minutes ago. She was being escorted to her chambers. The escorts were found unconscious. Drugged. The guard grabbed his arm roughly. Move. They rushed through corridors filled with frantic activity. Marcus processed everything, the tactical layout, the guard positions, the timing. Someone had taken the princess. Someone aboard this ship. Which meant someone aboard this ship had betrayed the queen. The implications were staggering. The queen's chamber was chaos barely contained. Officers shouted reports, displays showed ship schematics being searched section by section. And in the center of it all, Queen Lysara stood absolutely still, her face a mask of control, but Marcus could see the fear beneath. The primal terror of a mother whose child was in danger. She saw him, and everyone else seemed to disappear. Lieutenant Chin. You saved my daughter's life once. Her voice was ice over magma. You will do so again. Or I will kill you myself. Marcus straightened. Yes, Your Majesty. Tell me everything. The Queen gestured and a holographic display materialized. It showed the security footage, the princess walking with 2 guards, then a flash of movement too fast to track, both guards collapsing. The princess reaching out toward whoever had taken her before the feed cut to static. She didn't scream, Marcus observed. She reached toward them. She knew them. The Queen's eyes narrowed. Yes. I came to the same conclusion. She looked at him directly. There are factions within my own court who oppose the alliance with humanity. Who see it as weakness. Contamination of our culture and bloodline. Her hands clenched. If they harm her to make a political statement, they won't. Marcus stepped closer, breaking protocol, not caring. Your Majesty, your daughter is leverage, not a target. They need her alive to control you. That gives us time. Time for what? To find who benefits most from her disappearance. Marcus turned to the display, mind working through possibilities. Who opposed the alliance most vocally? Who has access to royal security codes? Who wasn't present when the mining station was attacked? The commander appeared beside them. You think the 2 events are connected? The timing is too perfect. The station attack forces evacuation, gets us on this ship, creates chaos. The perfect environment for an abduction. Marcus faced the Queen directly. Your Majesty, someone wants to force your hand. Make you choose between your daughter and the alliance. What will you do? The Queen's expression was unreadable. I will find my daughter. And I will make whoever took her regret they were born. Then let me help. Marcus met her gaze. I'm already condemned. I have nothing to lose. Use me. The Queen studied him for a long moment, something shifting behind those golden eyes. Very well, Lieutenant. You understand that if you fail, if any harm comes to her, death will be a mercy you won't receive? Yes, Your Majesty. She nodded once sharp. Then, help me save my daughter, human. And perhaps we'll find a way to save you as well. Marcus felt something shift in the room, a ripple of shock from the assembled officers. The Queen had just acknowledged him as an ally, not a condemned prisoner. It changed everything. But there was no time to process it. Somewhere on this ship, a 7-year-old girl was terrified and alone, and Marcus had made a promise. He turned to the commander. I need access to all personnel files. Movement logs for the past week. Maintenance schedules. Communication records. He paused. And I need to know who really benefits if the alliance fails. The commander glanced at the Queen, who nodded. Give him everything. As Marcus dove into the data, his mind already forming patterns, he caught the Queen watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read. Hope? Calculation? Trust? Whatever it was, it felt like standing at the edge of something vast and unknown. He'd saved the princess once by instinct. Now he had to save her through strategy and will. The alternative was unthinkable. The clock was ticking. And somewhere in the darkness of this ship, a child waited for rescue, believing in a human guard who'd already risked everything for her. Marcus wouldn't, let her down. The data streams flooded his vision as he worked, but one detail kept nagging at him. The security footage had been cut with precision. Professional precision. Someone had known exactly where the cameras were, exactly how to disable them without triggering immediate alarms. That kind of knowledge came from inside. From someone trusted. Marcus looked at the assembled officers, the guards, the Queen's own advisors. One of them was a traitor. One of them had taken a 7-year-old child. And Marcus was going to find out who, no matter what it cost. The Queen's voice cut through his thoughts. Time is not our ally, Lieutenant. Every moment she's gone, they move closer to their endgame. Then we move faster, Your Majesty. Marcus met her eyes, seeing his own determination reflected there. We find her. We end this. Tonight. The Queen's smile was cold and terrible. Yes. Tonight. Marcus pulled up the maintenance logs first, cross-referencing them with personnel movements. Ships were complex ecosystems. Every action left a digital trail. The question was finding the right trail among thousands. His fingers flew across the holographic interface while the commander stood at his shoulder, translating Korean terms he didn't recognize. There, Marcus pointed at an anomaly. Life support maintenance in Section 7 Delta, scheduled for 3 hours from now. But the request came through 40 minutes ago, right after the princess disappeared. Someone changed the schedule. Section 7 Delta is storage, the commander said. Climate controlled. Minimal surveillance. If you wanted to hide someone temporarily, that's where she is. Marcus was already moving. We need a team. Small, fast, people you trust absolutely. The Queen raised one hand. Lieutenant, if we storm in and she's not there, we alert whoever took her. They'll move her again, somewhere we can't find. We only get one chance. Marcus stopped, forcing himself to think tactically rather than emotionally. The Queen was right. He needed confirmation before they moved. He turned back to the data, digging deeper. Communication logs next. Who had sent messages off-ship in the past week? The list was short, heavily restricted. Only senior officers had external comm privileges. One name appeared 3 times. Lord Vecker, the Queen's chief diplomatic advisor. Each transmission had been encrypted with personal codes, which was legal but unusual. Marcus pulled up Vecker's background. He'd been one of the loudest voices against the Alliance, arguing that humanity was too fractured, too violent, too different to be reliable partners. But he'd been overruled by the Queen herself. Vecker, Marcus said quietly. Where is he now? The commander checked her display. His quarters. He reported feeling ill after the earlier attack, requested privacy to recover. Convenient. Marcus looked at the Queen. Your Majesty, I need to access Lord Vecker's personal communications. If I'm wrong, you can add it to my list of crimes. If I'm right, we find your daughter. The Queen's jaw tightened. Vecker has served my family for 30 years. He held me when I was a child myself. He negotiated the peace accords with the Kelzan Empire. She paused. But he also opposed the human alliance with passion that bordered on fanaticism. Do it. The commander's fingers moved across her console, overriding security protocols that should have been unbreakable. The Queen's authority was absolute. Vecker's communications flooded the display, and there, buried in diplomatic correspondence, was a message sent just before the mining station attack. Encrypted, but the timestamp was damning. Marcus decrypted it with tools that weren't strictly legal, tools he'd learned in military intelligence before joining the Guard. The message appeared in stark clarity. The human contamination spreads. If the Queen won't protect our bloodline, we must act. The mining station is merely the beginning. When the princess falls because of human weakness, All will see the truth. The room went silent. The Queen's face could have been carved from granite, but her hands trembled with barely contained rage. He orchestrated the attack. Put my daughter in danger deliberately, hoping she'd die. And when that failed, he took her himself. Marcus finished. To prove humans are untrustworthy. To break the alliance. Your Majesty, he's not going to kill her. He needs her alive to control you. But he will use her. Where? The Queen's voice was death itself. Where is he keeping her? Marcus returned to the data, mind racing. Section 7 Delta made sense for temporary hiding, but Vecker was too smart for that. Too obvious once they started searching. He needed somewhere that would never be checked, somewhere with a legitimate reason for privacy. His quarters. Marcus looked up. He's keeping her in his own quarters. It's brilliant. Everyone assumed she'd be hidden elsewhere. And he claimed illness, ensuring no one would disturb him. The princess trusts him, she wouldn't have resisted when he took her. The commander was already moving. I'll assemble a team, no. The Queen's voice stopped her. We cannot afford a public arrest. If word spreads that my own advisor is a traitor, it will tear the court apart. There are others who think like Vecker, who wait for any excuse to challenge my authority. She looked at Marcus. This must be handled quietly. Marcus understood immediately. You, me, the commander. 3 people. We extract the princess, secure Vecker, no one else knows until we're ready to act. You're asking me to trust a human condemned under our law to help rescue my daughter from my most trusted advisor. The Queen's expression was unreadable. If my ancestors could see this moment, they would think me mad. Probably. Marcus agreed. But they're not here. Your daughter is. And she's running out of time. The Queen stared at him for another heartbeat, then nodded sharply. Commander, bring me a weapon. Lieutenant, you're still technically a prisoner, you'll go unarmed. I don't need a weapon, Your Majesty. They moved through the ship like shadows, avoiding main corridors, using maintenance passages the commander knew by heart. Marcus's combat training kicked in, checking corners, watching for surveillance, moving with practiced silence. The Queen followed with equal grace, her ceremonial robes replaced with tactical gear that looked centuries old, and utterly lethal. When they reached Vecker's quarters, Marcus pressed against the wall beside the door, listening. Voices inside, Vecker's deep rumble and something else. A child's voice, scared but trying to be brave. You don't understand, little one. Your mother has made choices that endanger us all. Allowing humans into our military? Sharing our technology? We are becoming weak. Lieutenant Chen isn't weak, the princess replied, her voice wavering. He saved me when the ship broke. You weren't there. That's precisely the problem. A human touching royal skin, it's an abomination your mother should have punished instantly. Instead, she hesitates. Shows mercy. And mercy is weakness. Marcus felt his jaw clench. The commander placed a hand on his shoulder, steadying. The Queen's face showed nothing, but her eyes burned with cold fury. She moved to the door controls, overriding them with her personal codes. The door slid open silently. Vecker spun, one hand reaching for a weapon, but froze when he saw the Queen. Behind him, the princess sat bound to a chair, tears streaming down her face. She saw Marcus and cried out. Your Majesty, Vecker said smoothly, recovering. I was just committing treason, the Queen finished. Her weapon rose steady. Orchestrating an attack on Imperial citizens. Kidnapping the Crown Princess. Attempting to manipulate me into starting a war with our allies. She stepped forward. Did I miss anything, old friend? Vecker's expression hardened. I am trying to save our civilization. These humans, they're a plague. Emotional. Chaotic. They'll destroy everything we've built. I'm trying to make you see, by using my daughter as a hostage? By showing you the consequences of your choices. Vecker gestured at Marcus. This human broke our most sacred law. Touched the air. Yet you hesitate to execute him because he saved her life? That sentimentality will cost us everything. Our genetic purity. Our cultural identity. Our supremacy. Marcus moved toward the princess, slow and non-threatening. Vecker's hand went to his weapon, but the queen's voice cracked like a whip. Touch him and die. The old advisor's eyes widened. You would kill me? For a human? I would kill you for betraying my trust. For threatening my child. For thinking your ideology matters more than innocent lives. The queen's voice was ice. The law you claim to defend exists to protect the bloodline, not to prevent mercy. Lieutenant Chen violated protocol to save my daughter. You violated everything we stand for to push your agenda. You are not the same. Marcus reached the princess, his hands working quickly at her bonds. She lunged into his arms the moment she was free, sobbing. He held her carefully, aware of the queen watching, aware of the law still hanging over him. But in that moment, only the child's fear mattered. It's okay, he murmured. You're safe now. I've got you. Vecker laughed bitterly. Look at this. The air clinging to human contamination, while her mother watches. This is exactly what I feared. We're losing ourselves. No, the queen said quietly. You lost yourself long ago, when you decided tradition mattered more than truth. When you chose ideology over love. She gestured to the commander. Take him. Secure him in the brig. Let the council decide his fate. As the commander moved to restrain Vecker, the old advisor looked at Marcus. You think you've won? You've already lost. The moment you touched her, you sealed your fate. The law is absolute. The queen can bend protocol, show favoritism, but she cannot break the foundation of our society. You will die for saving her. And everyone will see the price of human involvement in our affairs. Marcus met his gaze steadily. Maybe. But she'll be alive. That's what matters. The queen stepped closer, studying Marcus with an intensity that felt like being X-rayed. The princess still clung to him, her face buried in his shoulder. After a long moment, the queen spoke. Lieutenant Chen, you have violated our most sacred law. You have broken protocol repeatedly. You have put yourself between my daughter and death twice now. She paused. The council will meet in 3 days to decide your fate. Until then, you are released from confinement. You will remain aboard this ship as a free man. Marcus carefully set the princess down, kneeling so they were eye level. Your Highness, you need to go with your mother now. No! The child grabbed his hand. They'll kill you! Mother, you can't let them kill him! The queen knelt beside them, her expression softening in a way Marcus hadn't thought possible. Daughter, the law exists for reasons you're too young to understand. Lieutenant Chen knew the consequences of his actions. But it's wrong! Tears streamed down the princess's face. He saved me! How can saving someone be wrong? The queen looked at Marcus, and something passed between them, an understanding, perhaps. A recognition of the impossible situation they were in. Sometimes, child, laws and justice are not the same thing. That is the burden of leadership. To know the difference and choose anyway. Then, change the law. The princess's voice rose, desperate. You're the queen. You can do anything. I cannot change 10,000 years of tradition on my own. The council exists to prevent exactly that, one ruler changing everything because of personal feelings. The queen stood gently but firmly taking her daughter's hand. Come. We will discuss this later. The princess resisted, still reaching for Marcus. Please, go with your mother, your highness, Marcus said quietly. It's okay. Whatever happens, you're safe. That's what matters. The child was led away, still crying, still protesting. The queen paused at the door, looking back at Marcus. 3 days, Lieutenant. The council meets in 3 days. Use that time wisely. After they left, Marcus stood alone in Vecker's quarters, processing everything. The commander returned moments later, her expression troubled. You realize what you've done, she said. Not just breaking the law, that could be forgiven under circumstances. But you've made the princess love you. care about you. She'll never forget this. And if the council orders your execution, she'll never forgive her mother for allowing it. I know. Marcus moved to the window, looking out at the stars. I didn't plan it. Any of it. I couldn't let her die. That nobility will get you killed. The commander stepped beside him. The council includes traditionalists who make Fecker look moderate. They've been waiting for an excuse to challenge the Queen's alliance with humanity. You've given them the perfect ammunition. What would you do? Marcus turned to face her. If you were me, in that moment, would you have let her fall? The commander was quiet for a long moment. No. I would have saved her. And accepted the consequences, just as you have. She met his eyes. That's why I believe you'll survive this. The Queen sees what I see. Honor is not species-specific. Courage is not determined by bloodline. You've proven that. Will it matter? To the Council? I don't know. But I know the Queen will fight for you. She can't show it openly. That would make this about personal feelings rather than principle. But she will find a way. The commander paused. The princess has given her one. A child's love is powerful testimony. Marcus wasn't sure about that. He'd seen enough politics to know that tradition usually won over sentiment. But he had 3 days. 3 days to prepare for whatever came next. 3 days to make peace with his choices. He thought about his family back on Earth, about the message he'd sent before this assignment. About his sister's kids, who called him Uncle Marcus and thought he was a hero for serving in the Alliance fleet. About his father, a veteran himself, who taught Marcus that duty meant protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. His father would understand what he'd done. Would approve. That had to be enough. The next 2 days passed in strange limbo. Marcus was free to move about the ship but felt the weight of every stare, every whisper. The crew had heard what happened, both the rescue and the law he'd broken. Opinion was divided. Some looked at him with respect, others with contempt. The human contingent was especially torn, proud that one of their own had proven himself, but worried about the political fallout. The princess tried to visit him 3 times. Each time, her handlers gently redirected her. Marcus caught glimpses of her in corridors, her golden eyes finding him through crowds, filled with hope and fear. He tried to smile reassuringly, tried to show her it was okay. But he didn't know if it was. On the 3rd day, the summons came. The council had convened. Marcus dressed in his formal guard uniform, every decoration earned, every ribbon precisely placed. If he was going to face judgment, he'd do it as a soldier. The commander escorted him to the council chamber, her presence a silent support. Whatever happens, she said at the doors, you did the right thing. Remember that. Marcus nodded and stepped inside. The chamber was enormous, designed to intimidate. 12 council members sat in a semicircle, elevated, looking down at the floor where Marcus stood. The Queen sat slightly apart, neither on the floor nor with the council, a neutral observer bound by their judgment. The princess sat beside her mother, small and scared but trying to appear brave. The chief counselor rose, an ancient male with silver skin and eyes like frozen stars. Lieutenant Marcus Chun of Earth, you stand before this council charged with violation of the Royal Touch Decree, a law that has stood for 10,000 years. You have willingly admitted to touching the Crown Princess, knowing the penalty was death. Have you anything to say in your defense? Marcus stood straight, hands at his sides. I saved a child's life. I would do it again. Murmurs rippled through the council. The chief counselor raised a hand for silence. The law exists regardless of circumstance. Its purpose is to protect the royal bloodline from contamination. Your noble intentions do not negate the violation. Then, the law is wrong. The chamber exploded with noise. Half the council rose, shouting. The Queen remained perfectly still, but her eyes locked on Marcus with an intensity that burned. The chief counselor slammed his staff on the floor, the sound echoing like thunder. You dare question 10,000 years of tradition? I question any tradition that would condemn someone for saving a child's life, Marcus said evenly. Your Highness, your law exists to protect genetic purity. I understand that. But I'm not a disease. I'm not contamination. I'm a soldier who saw someone falling toward death and reacted. If your civilization can't distinguish between threat and salvation, then maybe Vecker was right. Maybe you have lost yourselves. The silence that followed was absolute. Several council members looked apoplectic. Others seemed thoughtful. The Queen's expression remained unreadable, but something flickered in her eyes. Approval? Warning? The chief counselor leaned forward. You are human. You cannot understand the importance of our bloodline. The genetic modifications that make us what we are. Physical contact with outsiders could introduce variables, mutations. The princess is not just a child, she is the future of our entire species. I understand that better than you think, Marcus replied. My species almost destroyed itself fighting over genetic differences. Skin color, eye shape, arbitrary markers we used to justify hatred. It took us centuries to learn that we're all just people. That what matters isn't bloodline, it's choices. Actions. Character. He looked directly at the princess. Your Highness is special because of who she is, not because of her DNA. She's brave. Compassionate. She'll be a great queen someday. Not because of some genetic modification, but because she understands that laws should serve people, not the other way around. The princess stood suddenly. Mother, please. I'll never ask for anything again. Just let him live. The queen placed a hand on her daughter's shoulder, gentle but firm. Sit, child. This is not for you to decide. But it should be. The princess's voice cracked. He saved my life. I'm the one he touched. Shouldn't I have a say? The chief counselor frowned. The law is not subject to the victim's opinion. Why not? The princess faced him, surprisingly fierce for someone so young. If the law exists to protect me, shouldn't I be allowed to say whether I felt threatened? Whether I was harmed? Marcus felt his heart clench. This brave, stubborn child was fighting for him when she should have been safe, sheltered, protected from these decisions. The queen met her daughter's eyes, and for the first time, Marcus saw real emotion cross her face, pride, pain, love, all mixed together. The council will deliberate, the chief counselor announced. Lieutenant Chen, you will wait. No. The queen rose, her voice cutting through the chamber like a blade. I invoke the right of royal judgment. Every council member went rigid. The chief counselor's eyes widened. Your Majesty, that right hasn't been exercised in 3 centuries, because my ancestors chose not to exercise it. I choose differently. The queen descended from her seat, walking to stand beside Marcus. The royal touch decree exists to protect the crown. As queen, I declare that Lieutenant Chen's actions pose no threat to the crown. Therefore, the law does not apply. You cannot simply declare laws inapplicable. A counselor stood, furious. The decree is clear. The decree protects against contamination and harm. The queen interrupted. Lieutenant Chen prevented harm. He saved my daughter's life at risk to his own. That is the opposite of contamination. That is honor. She looked at each council member in turn. I am not asking your permission. I am informing you of my judgment. The law exists to serve the crown. The crown has determined that Lieutenant Chen broke no law. The chamber erupted. Councilors shouted, summoned support, most in outrage. The chief counselor slammed his staff repeatedly, trying to restore order. Through it all, the queen stood beside Marcus, her presence unwavering. If you do this, the chief counselor said when silence finally returned, you set a precedent. Others will challenge the decree. The bloodline protections will erode. Is that what you want? I want, the queen said clearly, a civilization that values life over tradition. That rewards courage over blind obedience. That understands the difference between preserving our culture and becoming so rigid we shatter. She placed a hand on her daughter's head. My child will inherit a universe where humans and our people work together. She needs to understand that honor transcends species. That sometimes breaking a law is the most lawful thing you can do. The chief counselor looked at the other members. Several nodded slowly. Others still looked angry, but uncertain. The right of royal judgment cannot be challenged by this council, he said finally. But there will be consequences, Your Majesty. Factions who disagree. Challenges to your authority. Let them come. The Queen's smile was sharp. I am not afraid of those who value tradition over justice. She turned to Marcus. Lieutenant Chin, you are cleared of all charges. You will return to active duty with full honors. She paused. Additionally, you will serve as the Crown Princess's personal guard. If my daughter trusts you with her life, then so do I. Marcus felt the weight of the moment, the significance of what the Queen had just done. She hadn't just saved his life, she'd made a political statement that would reverberate through her entire civilization. And she'd done it knowing the cost. Your Majesty, he said quietly. Thank you. I won't fail her. I know you won't. The Queen's expression softened almost imperceptibly. You already proved that. The princess ran to Marcus, and this time no one stopped her. She hugged him fiercely, crying with relief. Marcus knelt, meeting her eyes. You were very brave in there, he said. Your father would be proud. You were brave first, she replied. You taught me. The Queen watched them, and Marcus thought he saw tears in those ancient golden eyes, though she blinked them away quickly. Come, daughter. We have much to discuss. She looked at Marcus. Lieutenant, report to the commander for your new assignment. We reach the homeworld in 2 days. I expect you'll need to prepare. Marcus saluted, fist to chest, the human way. Yes, Your Majesty. As they left the chamber, Marcus felt eyes on him, some grateful, some resentful, all measuring. He'd survived. But more than that, he'd changed something. A law that had stood for 10,000 years had been challenged and found wanting. The alliance between humans and the Korean Empire had been tested and proven stronger. The commander appeared beside him. Well done, Lieutenant. Though you realize you've made yourself a target for every traditionalist in the Empire? I noticed. Marcus smiled slightly. Worth it, though. Yes. The commander agreed, her silver eyes reflecting respect. Yes, it was. 2 days later, the ship entered orbit around the Korean homeworld, a planet of crystalline cities and ancient forests, breathtaking and alien and somehow welcoming. Marcus stood in his new position at the princess's side as they prepared to disembark. She'd barely left him alone since the trial, asking questions about Earth, about humans, about everything. Her curiosity was boundless. Will you teach me to fight? She asked as they watched the planet grow larger through the viewport. If your mother permits it. She will. She said I should learn from the best. The princess looked up at him. Marcus, when I'm queen someday, I'm going to change things. Make them better. Like you showed me. You'll make a great queen, Your Highness. Sela. She corrected. When we're alone, call me Sela. Marcus smiled. Sela then. The queen approached, magnificent in ceremonial armor that gleamed like starlight. Lieutenant, we're about to make history. The first human to serve as personal guard to the crown princess. There will be ceremonies, speeches, political theater. She paused. Are you ready? Marcus looked at the princess, at Sela, who smiled at him with complete trust. Yes, Your Majesty. I'm ready. As they descended toward the planet, Marcus reflected on everything that had happened. A month ago, he'd been just another guard, doing his duty, following orders. Now he stood at the center of a political transformation, having challenged a 10,000-year-old law and won. Having proven that humanity deserved its place in this alliance. But mostly, he'd saved a child's life. And in doing so, had saved something more important, the idea that doing the right thing mattered more than following rules. That courage and compassion could change civilizations. That sometimes, the most revolutionary act was simply refusing to let someone fall. The ship touched down on the royal landing platform to the sound of thousands cheering. The Queen led them out into sunlight that felt like no star Marcus had ever known. Cameras flashed. Dignitaries bowed. But Marcus's attention was on the small hand that slipped into his, breaking protocol one more time. Sela looked up at him and whispered, "Thank you for saving me." Marcus squeezed her hand gently. "Thank you for saving me back." And, as they walked forward into whatever came next, ceremonies, challenges, new adventures, Marcus knew with absolute certainty that he made the right choice. Every single time. Some things were worth dying for. But living for them? That was the real challenge. That was the real honor. Behind them, the Queen smiled, a true smile, rare and genuine. Her daughter was safe. Her guard was loyal. Her empire was changing, slowly but surely, becoming something better than tradition alone could have made it. And in the end, that was enough.